When a video reaches 7 minutes and I have done nothing but scattered topics of everything except what I really properly wanted to say, you know it's time to start over. In one of the first videos I did on this series about Ren Jialun and all the actors that he's played, all the characters that he's played that I've seen him play, a few guest characters, 2 or 3 guest characters, and a whole lot of main characters. The first one, like, I told you what order he acted them in, but I haven't mentioned yet what order I saw them in. So maybe if anybody cares, I like lists, okay? I don't know if you like lists too, but to me it's kind of interesting comparing lists. What order did he actually act them in? What order did I actually watch them in? And then what order did I actually end up liking them in? Although what order I liked the shows in is way more complex than what order I liked the characters in, and in case you can't tell from the last couple of videos, it is really hard for me to actually rank the characters, never mind the show, because even the characters, I'm like, it depends what we're talking about here. I am going to get to a proper couples one. I'm going to do an overview, like recap. You know when you're doing an essay, you're supposed to start with an overview introduction, and then you get into the meat of the essay, and then you do an overview wrap-up. That's what I'm going to do with this one, to remind you of the order of stuff, because while you're going through the details, you forget what order things were in, etc. And plus, I realized afterward that when I was talking about Autumn Cicada and Blue Flame Assault, I forgot to mention the female character at all. I kind of mentioned the female character in Never Say Goodbye, but I didn't mention the female character at all in those 2 dramas. I'm like, oops, I meant to kind of talk about that, but I guess I'll talk about the female characters once I get to the actual list of least favorite to favorite couples, because I do have a ranking, and actually that was much easier to make than any of the other things. The rank of least favorite to favorite couple. Anyway, timeline of what order I watched these things in, and I'll tell you the date that I watched them too, so you can see how far apart they were, and kind of even more important, how close together they were, because my word, when I get focused and like fixate and obsess about something, I really fixate and obsess about stuff. I can't tell you exactly when I watched Lost Tomb 2, but that's the first one I saw, and he's a guest character in that one, Xiao Yu. Then from July 12th to July 29th at like 12:30 a.m. of the year 2022, I watched Legend of Chusen / Noble Aspirations, and he plays Lue in that one, a guest character that's only there for a few episodes. And then because of that character, Lue, I was like, I want to know more. So I went through all of the things that he's been in that I could find that I would be able to watch on like Aichia and Vicky, and I started watching them with the point and purpose of getting to know him. So I watched Love a Lifetime in August of 2022. I watched Under the Power in August of 2022. Watched Blue Whisper Season 1 in August of 2022. Then I watched One and Only in August of 2022. Then I watched Forever and Ever the very last day of August into September of 2022. Then I watched Autumn Cicada starting in September. No, completely in September of 2022. Then I watched a Korean show. Then I finished Never Say Goodbye because I started it alone at, on September 14th. Then I restarted it with my sister on September 20th. And I finished it on September 30th with my sister. At the same time as I was doing that, September 15th, I started watching 1,000 Years for You, and I finished it October 6th. So because I was watching 1,000 Years for You as it was coming out, and I was watching Never Say Goodbye with my sister, I ended up watching a Korean show in the middle of that to kind of fill space when I was trying to kill time after work, relax after work, and I couldn't watch either of the other shows because I'd already seen what they released, 1,000 Years for You, and my sister had gone to bed before me or whatever. So, and plus I was trying to keep 1,000 Years for You and Never Say Goodbye separate, because like that was the first time I watched 2 shows at the same time that Ren Jialun has played in, and I was like, they're very different characters and very different shows, but at the same time it is the same actor, so you know there's gonna be some overlap when you're like overlapping. September 27th to October 7th, I watched Miss Crow with Mr. Lizard. And then October 7th to October 11th, I watched Blue Flame Assault. So, and then on I can't check because it's on my phone. I can't remember the exact date. A few days ago, I decided to start watching Detective D, even though I can only find 14 episodes of that with subtitles, and the whole rest of that 66, I think it is, episode drama, they're only 25 minutes-ish episodes, but the vast majority of it does not have English subtitles, so I don't know why I'm doing this to myself. Okay, so that's the order that I actually watched his stuff in, and that's how quickly I watched it all together. One after the other, with only one other random drama stuck in there, and it wasn't even the same language. Because I'm weird this way. So, so far, I already did Chen Yi from Blue Whisper, but as of recording this video, I have not uploaded that video yet. The one about Blue Whisper. But by the time you see this video, I probably have uploaded it. Because the problem is, if you don't, like, know me and can give grace to me, and it's the first thing you've ever seen me do, or whatever, it's like, I'm explosively angry at that drama. I was, like, vibratingly angry about it. It's hard for me to stay calm, so it sounds like I'm just being... whatever. Either way, I was mad in that video. Like, I was reading the thing that I sent to my best friend, and she was like, but when I'm reading it out loud, I'm reading it with the emotion, so I'm like, you know, my voice is raising and the intensity of anger is heating up the house and all that stuff. So, I'm sorry. I try, but anyway. And then I've also talked about Mu Qing from Never Say Goodbye, Yi Chang from Autumn Cicada, Li Ji Cheng from Blue Flame Assault, Lu Yan from Thousand Years for You, and Gu Chuan from Mr. Lizard. By the point that this video is uploaded, you will have already heard about all those people, because I'm sort of kind of going through my least favorite to favorite characters, but at the same time, like I said while I was going through them, technically Yi Chang and Lu Yan should have been switched. So Yi Chang should have been at number 3, tied with Li Ji Cheng, and Lu Yan should have been at 4, tied with Mu Qing. The last 4 characters that I need to talk about, 2 that I'm going to talk about now, one of them I kind of had tied with Gu Chuan at 2, but I'm not entirely sure whether he should be tied at 2, or whether he should be tied with 2 of the other characters, so that I have 3 people in spot 1. I don't know. So I can't definitively tell you, because, like, okay, here's the, how do I talk about this now? Because I went back in my channel and I already did a Love a Lifetime, but never mind the Trust, and Under the Power final wrap-up, because, yeah, 2 of the 4 characters I have left to talk about are Nalan Yue from Love a Lifetime and Lu Yi from Under the Power. And Lu Yi is definitely one of my number 1 favorite characters that Jialun has ever played in, and Nalan Yue is either 2 or 1, probably should be 1, but the show is definitely not anywhere close to number 1 favorite, and that's the thing. If you go back and watch my videos about the Under the Power wrap-up and about the Love a Lifetime wrap-up, you will understand why. And I did watch those, and I'm going to try not to be repetitive. You should probably just go and watch those 2. The only problem is that they are chock full of spoilers, like extremely full of spoilers. So if you've never seen the show before and you don't want spoilers, you can't go and watch those yet. But I don't know. This should be mostly spoiler-free, at least, since I've already spoiled all those ones. Just go and watch those ones if you want the spoilers. So basically I'm saying I was excited to talk about Nalan Yue and Lu Yi, and then I was like, oh yeah, I did those videos where I already did a bunch of talking to them, so, like, now I can just, like, skim over them and move on to the other one. I'm like, but I didn't want to skim past these 2, because, like, these are 2 of my favorite characters that he's ever played. Okay, so I don't need to talk about the show. First, we're going to talk about Nalan Yue, and I've said before that I absolutely adore that name. I have no idea why, it just flows so cool. This is the first time I've ever heard the surname Nalan, and it is, like, epic. And Yue, I really like that name. I have a character in one of the books that I wrote that's named Yue, and I've loved that name ever since. I believe it means moon, or full moon, or something like that. And then I come across this character, and his name is Nalan Yue, and, like, and of course, my love for that name is heavily influenced by the character, because he is epic. Nalan Yue, the only family that you see in the present that he has is his mother and his basically adopted brother. obviously he had a father, but that's the very beginning of the show. In this show, basically, Nalan Yue is trying to figure out what happened to his father, because he knows that his father died a while ago, but his mother refuses to talk about how his father died and, like, who was involved in his father's death. So Yue, at the beginning of this show, I was like, are they serious or is he making things up? He's running away because his mother engaged him to somebody and he doesn't want to get married to this person. So he ran away to avoid getting married. And along the way, he decides that he's going to infiltrate this city, Dragon City or something like that, I think it's called. I forget exactly. But he's infiltrating this city because he knows the answers to his father's death are there somewhere. So in order to avoid the wedding and to find answers about his father, he's infiltrating this city. But the city is super hard to infiltrate because the guy that runs this city is, like, extremely controlling and strict about who is allowed to even enter the city, never mind actually stay there. So Yue's, like, he even takes a different name so that nobody can find out who he is. Because the thing is, the Nalan family, yeah, all the fighting between clans and stuff. He comes from, I forget what his thing is called, something or other, Pavilion is where he lives, and that is an extremely secretive sect. So nobody's supposed to know that he's from there, especially because already Dragon City and the Pavilion are not on good terms, because Dragon City is trying to find out about the Pavilion, so they've sent people to try and find out information, and those people have never come back. So they already don't like the Pavilion, so Yue can't let them know that that's where he's from. The very beginning opening of the whole thing, I absolutely love that scene. He's being, like, epic, and he remains that epic through the entire thing. His job, he is the young master of his clan, and he also, when he infiltrates the city, he ends up being the head of a medicinal department. So, okay, what I wrote here, I'm gonna be like a little bit of a fangirl of a squealy teenager type. This is what I wrote back when I was, like, very close to watching it. Now it's been a few months, but this is what I wrote when I was writing back then. Nalan Yue, he is so cool. I mean, gushingly cool. I absolutely love him. An extrovert without question, but he seems to have an understanding for those that aren't, because he doesn't push them to be something they aren't. He just protects what they are. No offense against extroverts, but sometimes they are, like, extremely clueless when it comes to introverts, and it's kind of irritating. They're like, you're just weird for being so quiet. Come and be, like, exactly like me. And I'm like, back off. Not everybody's an extrovert. Come on. Introverts can be kind of mean about extroverts too, because they're like, you're just all fluff and surface level idiots, and that's not true either. Both have their strong points. Both are really cool in their own way. It would just be really nice if they'd have a little more understanding of each other. I mean, the more extreme you are, some people are very close to, like, centered, half and half extrovert and introvert, and all the rest of that kind of stuff. But sometimes you get the extremes, and they can be mean about each other sometimes. But Nalan Yue is definitely an extrovert. There's only two characters that I can think of that are, like, pretty much extreme extroverts that Jialun has played, and Nalan Yue is one of them. Oops, sorry. Nalan Yue and Li Jicheng are the two extremer extroverts that he has played. There's some of the others that are on the extroverted side, but they aren't as extreme as these two. But, like I say, Nalan Yue is a very understanding extrovert. He's also, I think I say it somewhere in here. Let me finish with this and then I'll see if I actually said that or not. After saying that, I'm just incredibly frustrated that the trust is not there between him and the woman he loves, and the things he lets people get away with because he's trying to appease his wife. And I went over all of that in my Love a Lifetime, but never mind the trust video. He's not easy to catch off guard. He's a long-term planner that's always thinking ahead and placing his pieces to be ready for what's coming. Like, even at the beginning when he's kind of acting weirdly like a little idiot or something, like, you don't have to take him serious because whatever, like, even at the beginning when he's acting like that, other characters are always already like, no, we need to take this guy seriously because he has some serious power. And, like, already. And so he seems like he's just being frivolous and weird, but the show makes it apparent pretty quickly that that's because he's trying to cover up who he actually is and how much power he actually has, because he needs to keep himself safe, etc. and his pavilion, his whole clan. He needs to keep them safe, because if he's found out, how's that going to backlash on the pavilion and his mother and everybody there, including his brother and all the rest of that stuff. So he has to be very careful. And but he is like a long-term thinker. Everything he does has a point and a purpose, and he's very strategic. The most unique thing about him is his attitude. Here's where I say it. He's an extroverted actions, but the introverted mouth, i.e. the hiding of secrets and the desire to know more before acting rashly. Because, like I say, no offense to extroverts, but some extroverts are like really, really, really bad at keeping secrets. They just talk and talk and talk, and everything comes out of their mouth, and it's like they don't even realize that they're letting out all the secrets. They have a different opinion of what a secret is or something, because next thing you know, you turn around and you're like, you told who what? You weren't supposed to spread that around. But he is really good at keeping secrets. I mean, for himself and about himself and his family and etc. and like everybody. He's really good at keeping secrets, like really good. There was even one spot where he found something out, and the one person that he cannot let know anything about him is right behind him, so he has to get his face straight before he turns around to face that person, and he has to do it really quick because the person is waiting for him to turn around, and I'm like, oh. Unique physically, he's the one that stands with his hands on his hips a lot, like constantly standing with his hands on his hips. I mentioned that before. There's one character. There's other characters that stand with their hands on their hips sometimes, but him, like, 90% of the time, he's standing with his hands on his hips. Like, he does it all the time. So, most of the rest of the stuff I kind of said in the other video, and, like, what else can I say about Nalan Yue? He's, like, epically cool, and I don't know how else to, like, explain why, and, like, it kind of sort of took the wind out of my sails to watch the other video. I think I shouldn't have watched it. The show itself, like I say, like, in a way, the story is one of the best flowing out of all of them, even though I hate the girl, and the further it goes, the more angry I am at her. Love a lifetime. What else can I say about Nalan Yue himself? Because I basically went through the story itself and my opinions on the story. I don't know what else I can say about him. Believe me, he's like one of my favorite characters, and I could talk about him forever. Like, I get so excited watching. Oh, his fighting ability, that's one of the things. He is like so epic with his fighting abilities. Like, he's so cool. He's so strategic. He is so thoughtful. He is so... Oh, the scene... Okay, major spoiler. The scene where his wife miscarries the baby. My word, that like broke my heart. The reaction that he had to her and his understanding of how she feels losing that baby. The way that he reacts and the gentleness that he has with her. And it was like, oh, that was so sad and so cool watching that scene. I was like, that was so well done. The whole point of this is trying to go through and not just talk about how cool the characters are, but how epic Jialun is when he plays these characters. Because every single one of these characters, there's aspects about them and things they go through that Jialun brings out and acts so well that, like, he's got to be one of the most empathetic people on the planet to reach this level, because I know that he hasn't himself been through every one of these situations. I don't know which one of these situations he has, like, a deeper level of understanding, which ones he's just really good at guessing what it would be like. Because, like... There is not much that he does where I'm like, he could have done that better. The vast majority of times when I'm like, something fell apart or should have been done better, it's not him that made it fall apart or made it so that it could have been done better. It was the way that the directors chose to do stuff, or the script writers chose to write it. And I'm not trying to be mean to them either. I'm trying to, like, literally, I'm an author, okay? I'm a critiquer. When I see a story, I critique how it could have been done better. Spoilers. Is he the only one that was dealing with the loss of a family member? No, he's not. Is he the only one that was dealing with himself dying or, like, almost dying? No, he's not. There's a few other ones. So, I went off on a total tangent of absolutely everybody and everything else except Nalan Yue, I feel. And this is all because I already did a video, basically, about this show, and I did talk about Yue, and I'm basically going to just, repeat myself a lot if I continue with him. So I have to move on now, but I don't want to move on because he is so epic. I don't want to move on from him. Poor me. And this video is already 28.5 minutes long, and that was just one character because I went off on a tangent of all kinds of other characters and etc. So we'll see what happens after I edit it. Oh, talk about being a real leader. Like, my word. Like I say, Sssooo is so strategic, and he's not selfish. He is like literally carrying the weight of the entirety of his clan on him, and he never forgets that. Everything he does is like for the clan, and like he's a little bit more selfish at the beginning, and then something happens. But even in that one, by the way, I absolutely love his mother, Nalan Yue's mother. At first, I was really mad at her, and I'm like, yeah, spoilers. It's him that killed her husband / Yue's father. And so, like, yeah. But Yue managed to calm her down a little bit. But then, because he just about dies, like, it's one of those dumb things where they're saying he was literally dead and they brought him back to life. That's not possible, okay? But, so I'm going to say he was almost dead. And the way they did it, she died in order to bring him back. But, like, she's an epic mother. And it was, like, after that Yue was, like, that's a kind of heavy trauma that made him see the world in a different way. And he changes a bit after that. But he changes believably. He is still himself. He just gets way more focused and way more, like, because that happened. And he himself gets tortured by that man and all the rest of that kind of stuff. So he changes. But at the same time, he's never selfish. He's thinking of the clan, and he's thinking of how he can do this and all the rest of that kind of stuff. So, the other character that I am going to talk about in this video is Louis from Under the Power. And I already did talk about Under the Power and what I thought of that show. And I actually talked a little bit about Louis in it as well. What I wrote here about him, very close to, not exactly when, because Under the Power was the second thing that I saw, but very close to. Not even sure why Louis is on the top of the list. Maybe it's because he's so cool to begin with, and yet he still manages to grow, too. He's unshakable, like seriously unshakable. And yet he goes from being hard as a rock in a perfectly stable, but not exactly healthy way, to being strong in a whole different way. He is an introvert. A perfect example of an introvert that's got no problem being an introvert. And that is one of the most unique things about Louis. Plenty of Jialun's characters are introverts. But like, for instance, Zhou Shangchan from Forever and Ever is extremely shy. So he's an introvert, but he's extremely shy. And for those that don't know, there's a big difference between an introvert and someone that's shy. They are not the same thing at all. They really aren't. There's certain things about them that are similar, but they're not the same thing. And Louis is extremely introverted, but he's not shy, and he's not insecure, and he doesn't have, like, low self-esteem and all that stuff. He is very stable in who he is as a person. Despite what happened to him and his family when he was a child that is still affecting him, he in and of himself is extremely stable in who he is. The rock-hard attitude that he has is because of that back then. And he doesn't connect well with people because of that. And he's so goal-oriented that he's just, and because of the type of job he has, because I forgot, it wasn't just, Under the Power is weird in that aspect. You know how, like, they show flashbacks in shows and stuff? And usually if they're showing flashbacks, they end up going back to those flashbacks and properly showing you what was happening. They over-exaggerate going back and showing what happened to the family, because they show the scene so many times. They flash back to it so many times, and they go back to it over and over and over again and explain what happened and everything. However, when it comes to his training, Louis' training, and what got him into being an elite member of this, they call it the Embroidered Guards. They're like the elite guards of the Emperor himself. And the type of guards they are, the show goes into a little bit about how they are formed, how they are picked to be part of these guards, because these guards are the ones that the Emperor trusts the most. And so it goes, but the funny thing is, it shows you a flashback of the training, but it goes by so quickly. And I think maybe they show it twice. Both times it goes by so quickly, and I'm like, so, waiting for it. When are they going to go back to the scene and actually properly show you what happened? They never do. They never do. The closest you come is when Louis, there's something that happens within the show, and oh my gosh, I almost forgot to talk about that. Jialun's acting. Okay, hold on 1 second. When this is all happening, and there's a little bit of a spoiler in there, his right-hand man explains some of the stuff to Jinja. He's talking about how they became royal guards, embroidered guards, and I don't know if it was the subtitles being weird or what. It was a little confusing to me. I was a little confused by what he was saying. Either way, it was like a heartbreaking story that happened when Liu Yi was like 15 years old, apparently. I'm like, that is incredibly heartbreaking and horrifying. What he went through and stuff, and the funny thing is that they only like flash over it, and I'm like, you know, all that other stuff that I hated that you were focusing on this show, like, you should have taken most of that out and maybe focused a little more on this. That would have been really cool, but you know, fine. But yeah, so Liu Yi has been through, and that's the funny thing too, a lot of characters in a lot of shows, when they focus on like, this is the trauma that they've been through, and they're like a mess now because of it, whereas him, he is so strong in himself and who he is and all that stuff that he has closed himself off from a lot of people. But it's not like he's a mess that you can hold this over him and use him to like manipulate him because of all this and whatnot. That doesn't work on him. He is so rock solid in himself. There is a dangerous side to him that is not a joke. You see him torturing people at the beginning, and then he explains why. Like, for most of the show, you don't see him doing that kind of thing, but like, he has a dangerous side to him that is not a joke. He will use it if he says he will. Even if he has to fake weakness until he's strong enough to take the head off in one swing. He's really good at faking weakness. He literally explains this to Jinja at one point. And like, whoa, that whole scene where he's like, they're watching us, keep yelling. Oh my gosh. You'll know what I mean if you've seen the show. The most unique thing about him is his comfort level with himself and his lack of pride, i.e. the honor that traps a man. Like I said in the other video, he explained that. Like at the one point he said, the guy said something about competing because they both like Jinja, and he's like, there's no competition here. And like when he's egging him on at the table when they're at the doctor's house and stuff, the way he handled all that and stuff, I'm like, this is one of the reasons why Liu Yi is so unique and so powerful. You can't sway him with stuff like that. You can't manipulate him with stuff like that. He's like, you just can't use things against him. He is so rock solid, unshakable. Even as he grows and starts caring about people, there's only like once or twice that he kind of explodes, and it's because of Jinja and her being in danger. But even then, he's still, like, you don't mess with him. You literally don't mess with Liu Yi. Just don't. He's a strong silent type. I find it hilarious that he's like, people like Jinja can be touching him, and she's doing the most, like at the one point he was like sweating and stuff, so she's trying to like get the sweat off of him, and she's like, ooh, 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 because she has to touch his chest and all this stuff, and he's just like, he is so funny that way. He's so unshakable. You can't catch him off guard. He's so cool. This is why I absolutely adore Liu Yi, and probably why he's like #1. He's... And I was getting back to, because we're specifically supposed to be talking about Jialun and how he acts people and his epicness in being able to act. That's one of the things. I'm also talking about how unique the characters are and stuff. But Jialun, when it comes to acting, Liu Yi, there is a part, and this is a spoiler. It's not like a major spoiler, but it is a spoiler. So if you don't want to watch it, mute it until that's gone or something. But there is a point in the story where he gets poisoned with something that makes him age regress. So he goes from being early 20s to being 15 years old, and Jinja's like, what the heck? Why are you suddenly like grabbing my arm and twisting it all over the place because you can't remember who I am? What's happening? And then he age regresses to being 8 years old. And my word, I could not stop laughing. Like, 8-year-old Liu Yi is the most adorable thing ever. And the way that Jialun played him, I'm like, Jialun, how are you doing this? Like, talk about an adult. Sometimes I read books and like it's an author and they're supposedly writing a child, and I'm like, this child is not acting like a child at all. Come on, how much time have you actually spent around children? But like, Jialun, I'm like, I so believe that this guy is 8 years old. I 100% believe it. It was so epic. I could not stop laughing through that whole thing. It was so funny. I'm like, and he's the only character you get to see that had that happen. I mean, of course, that's not going to happen very often. There has to be a little bit of magic involved, even though this one doesn't have magic. But, like, supposedly, like, the poison that I say, it's for eternal life or whatever. And, like, I guess it was, like, this pill was supposed to give you eternal life, but because it's not perfected yet, it just basically age regressed him instead. My word, that was one of the best. Oh, it was the best. And then even better is when he came out of it and he was himself again. But Jinja didn't realize it at first, and I'm laughing my head off because she's like spanking his butt and all this stuff because she still thinks he's 8, and he's like, and she's like, oh, wait a minute, oops. And then when he's still pretending to be 8 in front of the other people, and I guess most of them did figure it out already, but the one guy definitely didn't, and he's still treating him like an 8-year-old, and Jinja's over there like, oh my gosh, he's dead meat. He is so dead meat. That was the best. That's all I can and will say. I mean, it's probably not all I can, but it's all I will say about those two. This video was super long, and I almost wasn't looking at the time. I have something else that I have to do now, so I am going to stop the video there. Let me know what your opinions are of these if you've seen them. Let me know what you thought of these characters and how well, like, what was your favorite scene and why? What is it about what Jialun acts them as that stuck out to you, etc. If you haven't seen these shows, have I convinced you to go and watch them yet? Bye for now.